So here's an experiment you can try with a friend. Try this experiment with a friend. Number 1, ask them who their favorite entertainer is. Wait for a response. Number 2, ask them how long they've been a fan of that entertainer. Wait for a response. 3, say, they're a negative term, right? They're a negative term. 4, gauge your friend's facial expressions. So you can throw any negative term you'd like in there and try it out. Do it for science. So what this experiment is about association, okay? So we always, we find positive associations with entertainers and public figures, which draw our interests, our attention to them. Okay, usually it's not negative. If you like something, you have positive association. If you don't like something, it's a negative association you have. In some regard, it might have something to do with the content, the material. If it's, say, for example, a stand-up comic like, Dave Chappelle, who recently got canceled by quite a few people after his new special Sticks and Stones came out on Netflix. Definitely check that out. It's one of the better, if not the best, stand-up comedy special I have seen in a long time. Dave Chappelle really hit it out of the park. And he did it at a time when political correctness, the code of PC, has been taking over a bit of Western society. And so Dave Chappelle did the exact opposite. He went back old school in comedy. He went back to a time when you could say things that you could not get away with on Twitter without being accused of hate speech or whatever arbitrary term they'd like to apply when they're trying to limit your free speech. But Dave Chappelle, it was funny, the form, his performance, the material. Again, humor is subjective, of course, so you may not appreciate it. And I find that a lot of the mainstream critics are not crazy about it. They are putting a bit of a negative association on it. So if you're asking your friend, ask your friend who their favorite entertainer is. So let's just say it's Louis C.K. Now, Louis C.K. did something that maybe he shouldn't have done in the presence of other adults, but he apparently, I don't want to get it wrong, but I think he masturbated. Tell me if Louis C.K. masturbated in front of somebody in the comments section below. I'd like to know your input on that. But, of course, he was very soon after essentially canceled, because we live in this cancel culture, this boycott culture. When somebody does something that we don't like, regardless of what it might be, it could be something truly offensive, or it could be just they have the wrong political opinion, or maybe they use the wrong word once or twice. So then you ask them how long they've been a fan. So they usually, people will have a long history of positive associations. But what if I told you there was a dark underbelly to your favorite entertainer? Like, what would you say if I called them, say, a sexist or a racist? Or if I said they were low IQ, or if they were insensitive, if they didn't care about this group or that group, if they weren't egalitarian enough? Say if I made it personal. Say if I, threw out some personal event that may have happened that was quite negative and made you question their character. Whether it's true or not, try it out. Because they can then, take a look and see, well, how many positive associations with this entertainer do I have? Do I have enough so that when bad association comes in, if I hear that they maybe, got involved in an altercation or some sort of battery or assault, may it be just physical with another person, or if it may be sexual or something, whatever it might be, like Louis C.K. and his masturbation. What will it take for you to stop listening to your favorite band, to stop listening to your favorite entertainer, your favorite singers, your favorite actors and actresses? Like how much goodwill have they generated that you can, you can take the heat, they can take the heat? I don't know. It's a great question. That's why we're doing this thought experiment. So after you've waited for a response, you say, they're a negative term, right? So, Yes, we live in this culture now where it's all about guilt by association. You need to be associating with the right groups. You don't want to associate with somebody that's marked or labeled. It is a symbol of bad. Okay, you want to stay within the right think world over here. You don't want to go into wrong think territory, whatever it might be. Maybe it's speech or action or just the clothes they wore, whatever it might be, whatever kind of statement they made. You know, you don't want to be in the bad groups. This is what they do. When they hear that an entertainer, a very persuasive person, is going against the narrative or the ideology of the day, whatever it might be, that they are using to socially engineer us and get us in that narrow little echo chamber, that Overton window of acceptable dialogue, anybody that goes outside those walls is considered extreme, perhaps even hateful. They might be somebody that uses hate speech. Once again, arbitrary, made-up term, very subjective, and it means something different to everybody. And in fact, it's not even covered by the First Amendment of the Constitution of the United States of America. It's not in that, that's one of the greatest free speech documents in the world. And of course, you don't have hate speech in there. So Dave Chappelle said a bunch of things that go against the code of the modern religion, that is social justice. So he became a martyr of another modern religion called censorship. Now people, of course, he hasn't been deplatformed. This is because Dave Chappelle, with his Sticks and Stones special, he's been doing this for 30 years. People know him. They know he's an entertainer. And he was able, unlike many other people in this world that work within comedy, that work within the artistic world. I mean, he had so much leverage. He had so much rope. Some people think he hung himself. I think that he hoisted a flag for free thought. And of course, it was very funny. And this is the thing about, combining comedy, trying to, put a filter of morality on comedy. Comedy is funny because it's wrong. Okay, by nature it's wrong. By nature it's off. By nature it's not, you get into a comedic situation, it's because things are going the opposite of good for the characters. They're in a crazy situation, or a joke might revolve around just something that normally would not be helpful. It wouldn't be moral. It would be a harmful situation that could hurt their reputation, that could hurt their job, that could hurt their family. But it's funny seeing them try to get out of that. Like, we have to look at that darkness, that real situation somebody might be in, and derive humor from it, because otherwise it's just depressing. It's darkness. It's blackness. It's this dark thing that nobody can laugh about. It's a human experience that we can't offer any catharsis for, because, well, it's inappropriate, it's offensive. But again, it's not your right not to be offended, right? It's not your right not to be offended. That's not in the Constitution. That's not in any of the charters. The UN hasn't ruled that you can not be offended lest it's something punishable by law. It hasn't happened. So you gauge your friends' facial expressions, and you see how deep their love affair for that entertainer goes. Will it bounce right off of them? Or will they start to feel like, well, if I associate with this entertainer, if I like their work, maybe I'm guilty by association. I'm condoning, I am platforming hate, or I'm platforming something that is unacceptable. That's what they'd like people to do. They'd like people to question anybody that goes outside of the box, anybody that decides to, be their own authority figure and just say what they're going to say, within law. There's no libel, slander, defamation going on. It's comedy. It's art. They're able to do that. And, either you're for free speech or you're against it. There's only two ways you can go, and of course you do have the right to speak up and say, well, I do not condone this, I boycott this. But I feel like this association game where you want to put people into, the bad box or the good box, and then they start to turn it political. They say, well, I'm a Democrat or I'm a Republican, and then I'm going to boycott anybody on the other side of the aisle if they have a business, if they have a product, if they're doing a show or a service, I'm going to go ahead and, because of their political ideology, I'm going to try to drain their money supply, their resources, so that they can't speak anymore, that they don't have any clout, any more merit in the public square. We're going to take all of their credibility away by making sure they have no money, so they have to go begging on the streets. And hey, if we can cancel them along the way, even better, that'll show them. Just this moralizing of every situation has become, I mean, the last time I remember it being this wild, it was long before the devoutly secular and their modern religions, but back when Christian fundamentalists were the ones that, I grew up in a Christian household, Protestant. My parents were Protestant. And, I remember when we had things that could not come into the household. Like my parents would say, look, you can't have this game because it has strange religious imagery. I think that game was Heretic. Actually, this is actually exactly what it was. I just remembered when I was about 9 or 10 years old, maybe 11. My parents said, you can't get Heretic, which was a Doom clone by Raven Software, released back in 1994, 1995. First-person shooter. So it was okay to play Doom. Okay, my Christian fundamentalist mother said, it's okay to play Doom. But you can't, because you're killing the demons, maybe, I don't know. But you can't play Heretic. The religious symbolism is too much. So they kept me away from it. They said, well, no, it's no good. And then one day my dad went ahead and he said, well, look, honey, he's playing Doom. He's playing Wolfenstein 3D. He's playing Duke Nukem 3D. If we can let him look at these pixelated prostitutes and things like that, the strippers in the game, he's like, come on. Take the logical leap. But yeah, no, you can easily dissuade people from having a certain thought process or ideology by removing any people in their lives that might have an independent voice that, goes against the narrative, that goes against, what society dictates is normal. It's been going on for decades. It's been going on for many, many years. There will always be a counterculture. It just depends on the timing, which paradigm we're in, and who is in power. That changes the rhetoric quite a bit. But it's a fun experiment. You might piss off your friends, so if you do piss off your friends, let them know that it was Jeff Tidwell's idea and that they should come and subscribe to the channel for more of that. Get back at you with another pro tip.